Minister of Israel's address. Two men with extensive foreign policy and military experience. John Bolton, who of course is a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor, and General Jack Keane, who's a retired four-star general, former vice chief of staff of the Army, and a Fox News military analyst. You have some interesting thoughts on this. Number one, General, you were saying a shift in the timing in terms of what the Prime Minister views as sort of the ultimate date on Iran's nuclear weapons program.
Well, the Prime Minister consistently has been saying we're out of time. And a number of months ago, he said we had 6 to 8 months left. And I think now pushing that timeline back to the spring or summer of next year is probably a little closer to where our current administration is. I think our administration is actually beyond that time frame. But he's clearly moved closer to where this administration is, that we do have more time.
Mm-hmm. And also you mentioned, we saw the prop that he had. You know, he actually busted out the prop with the bomb and the fuse, which does make you pay attention. I mean, some will think it's a little hokey, but it makes you pay attention. All three of us started looking, and seems to be drawing the red line at they can't get beyond 90% uranium enrichment.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I think if I was drawing that red line, I'd draw it when they begin to move to highly enriched uranium for weaponization. In other words, when you go from 20% to 90%, you begin to move towards that. And that, I think, gets you that weapon. And why wait until they've completed it is where he's drawn that red line, if I understand what he's saying. I think the use of that graphic is brilliant to get people to understand what's really taking place here in such a complicated, sophisticated subject. He's broken it down, I think, to where any person could understand.
Reminds me of Saturday morning cartoons. That's how the bombs would look with the little fuse. Anyone can get what he's trying to show us, Ambassador Bolton. Your thoughts on his comments?
Well, I thought he made one very important point that people don't understand, and that is that the economic sanctions may have caused Iran pain economically, but they have not stopped or materially impeded the nuclear weapons program. So you can have sanctions till the cows come home. North Korea is the most heavily sanctioned country on earth, bar none, and it has already exploded 2 nuclear devices. And I think that's an important argument to make, because people are prone to say, well, why don't we just toughen the sanctions up a little bit? Under his timeline, under the Netanyahu timeline, the sanctions are not going to bring Iran to its knees before they have crossed his red line. So I thought that point was important to make, and I think people need to understand that, especially if military action follows. Where I think he made a mistake was on the red line. I think I agree with Jack on that point. You know, the Security Council of the vaunted United Nations set a red line in 2006. It said, stop all uranium enrichment activities. And Iran has blown right past that red line, effectively with no consequences for its nuclear weapons program. So to me, the very concept of a red line, it has dubious effect, because the Iranians have seen previous red lines repeatedly ignored.
We've seen in this country somewhat of a debate about what we should be doing with respect to Iran's nuclear program, and we heard a lot of it during the Republican primary, quite frankly. Ron Paul was saying, what business is it of ours? If Iran wants to develop a nuclear weapon, then that's its business, and we have no right to tell them no. When we were listening to the Prime Minister, you knew at one point in his speech he was going to get to a quote from Bernard Lewis, and he did. And the quote was something to the effect of, for the Ayatollahs, mutually assured destruction is not a deterrent to getting nuclear weapons. It's an inducement to getting and using them.
Right. If you prize life in the hereafter more than you prize life on Earth, the threat of being destroyed isn't going to deter you. The one thing you can say about the communists during Cold War days is they were atheists. They knew they were only going around once in life, and they weren't about to throw it away too quickly. That's not a calculus that applies to Iran, and that's why the entire notion that it would be bad if Iran got nuclear weapons, but we could contain and deter nuclear Iran is delusional, very dangerous, and even if I'm completely wrong on that, it doesn't stop with Iran. As Secretary of State Clinton herself has said, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and perhaps others will get nuclear weapons as well, making an already volatile region even more dangerous.
General?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the great values of the speech was laying out the true threat of radical Islam. And it not just threatens Israel, it threatens the world because of what their objectives are. And then we have a nation state that espouses that as well and wants a nuclear weapon. And a 30-year history here of terrorism killing us. I mean, the last commander we had in Iraq believes that the Shiite militia, sponsored by the Iranians, trained by the Iranians in Iran, given weapons by the Iranians, killed close to 2,000 of our 4,400 American dead. plus blew up 2 embassies, plus blew up 2 barracks, and then this nation takes on a nuclear weapon. I think his characterization of that threat and what that means, not just to the region, but to the world, is absolutely clear, and one of the best presentations I've seen on the subject.
Got to run. Guys, thank you both so much. We appreciate you being here. Well, coming up, allegations of a cover-up by the administration.